Hi everybody, this is Oksana and today I'm going to demonstrate for you a few different wire weaving techniques that you can incorporate into what you're making, and these involve using two base wires. So I have my two thicker base wires here, and then I'm weaving with the thinner wires. So these are the four. These first two are basically the same one. I'm just showing the difference between the number of wraps. Then you have this style here and then this last one. So these are the ones I'm going to demonstrate for you in this video. So if you want to see how to do these weaves, then keep watching. So I have two thicker wires. They are 20 gauge. And I chose purple so you can really see the silver against it, and hopefully that'll help you guys. And the silver wire is 28 gauge, so I'm just going to put it right in between. So if you're doing your very first little loop, you're just beginning, then you have to hold the thin wire. I like to just kind of like wrap it around my finger and like pinch it and hold it like that so it doesn't move. So for this first weave I'm going to show you, I'm going to be wrapping this thin wire 4 times around the bottom wire. So I'm going to bring it up, and there you can see that first little wrap happening. Now we are bringing this thin wire in between and down and back up. There's our second little loop. Now in between a third time for the third loop, and the fourth time for the fourth loop. So now I'm bringing it, instead of in between, just all the way up and around both of the wires, just like that. And that's going to be just one little loop. I'm going to leave it at 1. And now in between again for another little loop. And that is going to be the pattern. It's going to be 4 little loops on the bottom, or little wraps, and then 1 wrap around both of the wires. And you can kind of see, hopefully, the pattern that it makes. So now around the 1, and that's how it's going to look, just kind of like spiky with a single little spike there. I'm going to do this just a tiny bit more so you can get a better idea of what it looks like. So here is what that looks like when I've continued for just a little bit, so you can get a better idea. And you can do all sorts of things with this basic weave or wrap. You can change the number of these little loops. So this one with just a 1 kind of has this nice little spiky look. You can really see the color of this purple wire. Another way you can do this is you can wrap it the same amount of times around the long way. So I'm going to do 3 times around both wires and 3 times around the bottom wire. And that way my spacing is going to be kind of even, and you're going to see what that looks like. So I'm doing essentially the same thing as I was doing before. I'm just changing the number of the wraps that I'm doing. So this is 3 and 3. Let me do it a couple more times. Alright, so here's what that looks like. So you can see there's quite a difference. Makes quite a difference, the number of little loops that you do. And so there's endless variations with this. I'm not going to show you them all, but just know that you can do 2 wraps around both wires. You can really change it up any way that you want. So this is the first basic technique. So the next one I'm going to show you, this one is really nice. I like it quite a bit, but I found it a little bit challenging. If you're just starting out, I would probably choose one of these two, but this one looks really pretty as well. You just have to keep the loops really tight, otherwise it starts looking wonky. So our wire's coming out the middle here. Pretend you're just starting out, and you're going to do 1 loop around the bottom wire, bring it up and over and down through the middle, from front to back this time. So you're doing 1 loop around the top. Now bring it up and over, and you're doing one loop You're doing one loop around both. And now since it's in the back, bring it to the front through the middle. So you're making one loop around the bottom, and we're repeating now. Down and in between, one loop around the top, up and over, one loop around both. So that's how it goes. One loop around the bottom, one loop around the top, and then one big loop over both. And it repeats like that. So this looks really nice when you push it tightly together. I'm going to go ahead and continue for a little bit so you can see what it would look like. So here is what that looks like. I think it looks really, really nice. But if you do it, make sure you're constantly pushing these to keep them nice and close together. The disadvantage of this one is it doesn't show your thick wire color. So if you have a colorful wire, like I have my purple here, you're not really going to see that with this weave. So the next one I'm going to show you involves some space between your thicker wires. And this is the one that kind of looks like laces kind of going back and forth. I think it's really pretty. And different people have different preferences for this in terms of how many little loops you do before you move to the next wire. I really like to do 2. Now, also what some people do, and I personally don't like this, I'll show it to you real quick and then I'll take it apart, is you just go like around these wires just like this. You don't make a specific little loop. You just kind of keep going, like weaving in and out, but you don't have a single loop that's going completely around a wire. You know, like to go around, this would need to come up, but we're not going around. We're just going like up and over, up and down like this. And you can do this with the wires close together as well. You don't have to have them separated like that. But I really don't like this style because it moves around a lot. Since we don't have a little wrap around any wires, I feel like this one is just very floppy. And when you bend your wires, it gets all messed up. So I'm just going to undo it. And I'm going to show you my preferred way of doing it. So I'm going to start on the bottom. And I'm going to make 2 little loops. So here's my 2 little loops. You can push them together. And now, when I make the third one, I'm going to bring my wire underneath that top one. See it come in there? And then down and through in between. So now I'm making 2 little loops around the top. And now I'm going to do a third one, but the third one, again, I'm going to bring it down in this way. So my personal preference, I'm just going to keep doing this, is the 2 little loops, and then the third one is the one that you bring over. That's what I like. You can do different amounts. You can do 4, you can do 1. It really doesn't matter, but I'm just going to show you what the 3 looks like, and then you can change it up. So I know the spacing of mine needs to be adjusted, and I will adjust that in 1 second here. It's all spread out. You really don't get to see how pretty this looks until you've gone a little ways with it. So I'm going to keep going for a little while. It's really like when it gets to the open part, when it's nice and opened up, that you see how pretty it looks. So I'm just going to keep going here, and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. Here is what that looks like. The trick to this one is keeping the wires at a nice distance from each other. You don't want them to get all crooked on you, and then the shape of this to get all funny looking. I find that, you know, I'm able to do it by being careful when I pull on this wire. When you're bringing it over to the other side and you're doing that first little loop, don't pull super hard because you might actually like pull your wires together and change the shape. But as long as you're kind of careful and gentle, I find that these 20 gauge wires are usually thick enough to hold their shape for the most part. So that is it. Those are the different little weaves that I wanted to demonstrate for you. Hopefully this is helpful. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.